My name is Jake. I am 12 years old, and I live in a small town with my mom, dad, and little sister. My town is quiet, with big trees, small houses, and a few stores on the main street. Nothing exciting ever happens here, but I don't mind. I like the slow and peaceful life. One summer morning, I woke up early. The sun was already shining through my window, and I could hear birds singing outside. I stretched my arms and sat up in bed. Today was special because I was going to my friend Ethan's house. Ethan was my best friend, and he had something that I had always wanted to try, a guitar. I got dressed quickly, putting on my favorite blue t-shirt and a pair of shorts. Downstairs, my mom was making breakfast. The smell of pancakes filled the kitchen. "Good morning, Jake," my mom said as she flipped a pancake. "Good morning," I answered, sitting down at a table. "Are you excited for today?" she asked, placing a plate in front of me. "Yes, Ethan said he would teach me how to play the guitar," I said, my mouth already full of pancakes. Mom smiled. "That sounds fun. Just be careful with the guitar. It's not a toy." "I know," I said. "I'll be careful." After breakfast, I grabbed my backpack. I didn't need much, just a water bottle and a small notebook where I sometimes wrote stories or drew pictures. Before I left, my little sister Lily ran up to me. She was only 6 years old, with curly blonde hair and big curious eyes. "Where are you going?" she asked. "To Ethan's house," I said. "Can I come?" "Not today, Lily. Maybe next time." She pouted but didn't argue. Instead, she ran back to the living room to play with her toys. I walked out the door and started my journey to Ethan's house. It wasn't far, just a 10-minute walk through a quiet neighborhood. The air was warm, and the sky was bright blue. I saw a few neighbors outside, Mr. Peterson watering his garden, Mrs. Clark walking her dog. They all smiled and said hello as I passed. When I reached Ethan's house, I knocked on the door. A few seconds later, Ethan opened it. He was wearing a red t-shirt and jeans, his brown hair messy as always. "Hey, Jake, come in," he said, stepping aside. I walked inside. Ethan's house was different from mine. It was bigger, with a lot of bookshelves and paintings on the walls. His mom loved art, and his dad was a music teacher. That's why Ethan had a guitar. His dad had given it to him for his last birthday. We went straight to Ethan's room. The guitar was sitting on his bed, a shiny wooden acoustic guitar. I had seen it before, but today I would finally get to hold it. "Okay," Ethan said, picking it up. "First, let me show you how to hold it." He sat on the bed and placed the guitar on his lap. He showed me how to rest my arm over the body of the guitar and how to hold the neck. Then, he strummed the strings lightly. A warm, rich sound filled the room. "Wow," I said, "that sounds amazing." "It's not hard," Ethan said. "Here, you try." He handed me the guitar carefully. It was heavier than I expected, but it felt good in my hands. I placed it on my lap, just like Ethan had, and slowly ran my fingers over the strings. The sound was not as nice as when Ethan did it, but it still felt magical. Ethan laughed. "Not bad for your first time." I smiled. "Teach me a song." "Okay, but let's start with some easy chords first," he said. "Put your fingers here." He showed me where to place my fingers on the strings. At first, it was difficult. My fingers didn't want to stay in the right place, and when I strummed, the sound was strange. "That's normal," Ethan said. "It takes time. Just keep trying." So I did. I kept placing my fingers on the strings and strumming again and again. Each time, it sounded a little better. The more I practiced, the more excited I felt. I was really playing the guitar. After a while, Ethan's mom called us from downstairs. "Do you boys want some snacks?" "Yes," we both shouted and ran to the kitchen. Ethan's mom had made sandwiches and poured us glasses of lemonade. We sat at the table, eating and talking about school, summer, and, of course, music. "You're doing really well for your first time," Ethan said. "Thanks," I said. "It's harder than I thought, but I really like it." "Maybe one day we can play a song together," Ethan said. I grinned. That would be awesome. After our snack, we went back upstairs, and I continued practicing. The afternoon passed quickly. I didn't even notice how much time had gone by until I looked at the clock. "Oh no, it's almost 5. I have to go home," I said, standing up. Ethan nodded. "Yeah, but you should come back soon. We can practice more." "I will," I said. Before I left, Ethan looked at me and then at his guitar. After a moment, he smiled. "Hey, do you want to borrow the guitar for a few days?" he asked. I froze. "Really?" "Yeah, why not? I can practice on my dad's guitar," he said. "Just be careful with it, okay?" I couldn't believe it. I was going to take home a real guitar. "I promise I'll be super careful," I said. Ethan handed me the guitar, and I held it close. It felt special, like a treasure. "Thanks, Ethan. This means a lot," I said. "No problem," he said. "Just practice every day, and you'll get better really fast." I nodded, feeling excited. I said goodbye and walked home, carrying the guitar carefully. The sun was lower in the sky now, painting everything in warm orange and pink colors. As I walked, I imagined myself playing a song perfectly. Maybe one day, I would be really good. Maybe one day, Ethan and I could even play music together in front of people. I smiled to myself. This was just the beginning. As I walked home, the guitar felt heavy in my hands, not because of its weight, but because of what it meant. It was trust. Ethan was trusting me with something important, something that belonged to him, and now, I had a real chance to learn. My heart was beating fast, half from excitement, half from nervousness. What if I wasn't good at it? What if I accidentally broke a string? But I pushed those thoughts away. I would be careful. I would practice. I would learn. When I reached my house, I slowly opened the front door and peeked inside. My mom was in the kitchen, and my little sister Lily was playing with her dolls on the living room floor. Everything was peaceful. I stepped inside carefully, holding the guitar close. Lily was the first to notice me. She looked up and gasped. "Jake, is that a guitar?" "Yeah," I said, smiling. "Ethan let me borrow it." Her eyes widened. "Wow, can you play a song?" I laughed. "Not yet, but I'm going to practice." She jumped up and ran to the kitchen. "Mom, Jake has a guitar." I winced. I had wanted to bring it inside quietly, but now there was no hiding it. Mom turned around, wiping her hands on a towel. Her eyes landed on the guitar. "Oh," she said, raising an eyebrow. "Where did you get that?" "Ethan let me borrow it," I explained quickly. "I want to learn how to play." Mom folded her arms. "And did you ask Ethan's parents if it was okay?" "Yes," I lied. Well, half lied. Ethan's mom didn't say anything, but she saw us with the guitar and didn't stop him from lending it to me. That counted, right? Mom sighed but didn't argue. "All right," she said, "but be careful with it." And don't play too loud. Your dad is working in his office. I will, I promised. I hurried upstairs before she could change her mind. Once in my room, I sat on my bed and placed the guitar on my lap. The wood felt smooth under my fingers, and the strings were cool to the touch. I took a deep breath and strummed. Plink. The sound wasn't perfect, but it wasn't terrible either. I tried again. Plink. I adjusted my fingers, trying to remember how Ethan had placed his hands. It didn't sound as rich and full as when he played, but I wasn't giving up. For the next hour, I practiced the chords Ethan had shown me. My fingers hurt, pressing against the steel strings. I had to keep adjusting my hands, and most of the time, the sound was wrong. But every now and then, I got it right, and when I did, it felt amazing. I was so focused that I didn't hear my door open. "What are you doing?" I jumped and turned around. Lily was standing there, watching me with big eyes. "Practicing," I said. She climbed onto my bed and sat next to me. "Can I try?" I hesitated. Ethan had trusted me with the guitar, but I wasn't sure I trusted Lily. "Maybe later," I said. She pouted but didn't argue. Instead, she lay back on my bed and listened as I continued practicing. After a while, my mom called us for dinner. I carefully placed the guitar in a corner and went downstairs. At the dinner table, my dad finally noticed. "Jake, where did the guitar come from?" I swallowed my bite of food and explained the story again. My dad listened carefully, then nodded. "That's nice of Ethan to lend it to you. Just be responsible with it." "I will," I said. Lily, of course, had to add something. "Jake's going to be a famous guitar player one day." I laughed. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves." That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I lay awake in the dark. I thought about the guitar, about playing real songs one day, about how music felt like something big, something important. And then, quietly, I got up, picked up the guitar, and sat on the floor. The house was silent, the world outside dark and still. I placed my fingers on the strings and began to practice again, this time softer, careful not to wake anyone. Plink, plink. Each note felt like a step forward, a tiny step toward something new. I smiled in the darkness. This was only the beginning. The next morning, I woke up feeling excited. The first thing I saw when I opened my eyes was the guitar resting in the corner of my room. It looked almost like it was waiting for me. I sat up, stretched my arms, and walked over to pick it up. The wood felt warm now, maybe from all the times I had held it yesterday. I sat back on my bed, placed the guitar on my lap, and tried to remember everything Ethan had taught me. Plink. The sound was still not perfect, but I could tell I was getting better. My fingers hurt less now, and I was starting to recognize the chords. I was so focused that I didn't even hear my mom call me for breakfast. I only noticed when Lily burst into my room. "Mom says to come eat before it gets cold," she said. Then she grinned. "But first, play something for me." I rolled my eyes but smiled. "I only know a few chords. It's not a real song yet." "That's okay," she said, sitting cross-legged on the floor. "Just play." I hesitated for a second, then strummed the chords I had been practicing. It was simple, just a slow rhythm, but Lily swayed her head as if it were a real song. "That sounds good," she said. "Maybe you can play at my birthday party next month." I laughed. "Let's not get too excited." After breakfast, I had only one goal, to keep practicing. But before I could go back to my room, my mom stopped me. "Jake," she said, looking at me over the kitchen counter. "You can't just stay inside all day with that guitar. Go outside, get some fresh air." I groaned, "But I need to practice." "You also need a break," she said. "Why don't you take it to the park, play there?" At first, I thought she was joking. Playing outside? What if people saw me? What if they laughed? But then I thought about it. The park was big, and there were quiet spots where I could sit alone. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad. So, after filling my water bottle and grabbing my notebook, I carefully picked up the guitar and headed out. A new challenge. The park was only a few blocks away. It was a sunny day, with a nice breeze blowing through the trees. I found a quiet bench under a big oak tree, away from the playground and the busy paths. I sat down, took a deep breath, and placed the guitar on my lap. The wind rustled the leaves above me as I started playing the simple chords Ethan had taught me. At first, it felt peaceful, the open air, the sound of birds, the warm sun on my face. But then, I heard footsteps. "Hey, what are you playing?" I looked up and saw a boy about my age standing nearby. He had curly black hair and was wearing a baseball cap. He was holding a skateboard under his arm. "I'm just practicing," I said, suddenly feeling shy. "That's cool," he said, sitting on the grass. "I always wanted to learn guitar, but I never tried." I wasn't sure what to say. Nobody had ever listened to me play before, except Lily. The boy leaned forward. "Can you play something?" My hands froze. I'm not very good yet." "That's okay," he said. "I just wanna hear." I hesitated, then took a deep breath and strummed the chords. I played slowly, carefully, making sure to place my fingers in the right spots. The boy nodded his head, tapping his fingers on his skateboard like he was keeping the beat. When I finished, he grinned. "Dude, that was awesome." I laughed nervously. "Really?" "Yeah, you should keep practicing. You'll be really good one day." I smiled, feeling more confident. "Thanks." The boy stood up, adjusting his cap. "I'm Noah, by the way." "I'm Jake." "Well, nice to meet you, Jake. Keep playing, man. Maybe one day, you'll have a band." A band? The idea had never crossed my mind. I watched as Noah skated away, and for the first time, I imagined something bigger, playing music not just alone, but with other people. Maybe Ethan and I could play together one day. Maybe we could write songs. The thought filled me with new excitement. The big mistake. That afternoon, I kept practicing. I played in my room, then later on the porch while Lily danced around. I felt like I was getting better and better. But then, it happened. I was playing a chord when I pressed too hard on one of the strings. Suddenly, snap! I froze. My heart stopped. I looked down and saw it. A broken string. My stomach twisted. This wasn't my guitar, it was Ethan's, and I had broken it. I didn't know what to do. Should I tell Ethan? Should I try to fix it before he found out? Would he be angry? I took a deep breath and carefully put the guitar down. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe guitar strings broke all the time. I grabbed my phone and searched, what to do when a guitar string breaks. The first result said, guitar strings break often and are easy to replace. I sighed in relief, but then, I saw the next part. You need to buy a new string and know how to replace it properly. I didn't have a new string, and I didn't know how to fix it. I had only one choice. I had to tell Ethan the truth and the lesson. That evening, I walked to Ethan's house, carrying the guitar carefully. My hands were sweaty. I knocked on the door, and when Ethan opened it, he smiled. "Hey, man, how's the practice going?" I hesitated, then took a deep breath. I broke a string." Ethan's smile faded. "Oh. I'm so sorry," I said quickly. "I didn't mean to. I'll fix it, I promise." Ethan looked at the guitar, then at me. "Finally," he sighed. "It's okay, strings break sometimes." I blinked. "They do?" "Yeah, all the time," he said. "You just have to replace them." I don't know how." Ethan grinned. "That's okay, I'll show you." We went inside, and Ethan took out a small box from his desk. Inside were extra guitar strings. "You had extra strings this whole time?" I asked. "Of course," he said, laughing. "You can't play guitar without breaking strings sometimes." He showed me how to remove the broken string and replace it with a new one. It took time, but when we finished, the guitar looked good as new. I strummed it once. The sound was perfect. Ethan crossed his arms. "Now, let's teach you a real song." And that night, as we sat in his room, playing and laughing, I realized something. Learning something new isn't just about getting better. It's about making mistakes, fixing them, and never giving up. And that's exactly what I was going to do. Keep playing, keep learning. And maybe, one day, I really would play in a band.